You ever have one of those moments where you realize something about daily life in America is just weird? Like you're standing in the grocery store staring at a wall of 50 different types of cereal, and it hits you, why do we need this many options for crunchy milk delivery? Or you're trying to buy a simple coffee, and the barista asks if you want it small, medium, large, venti, Trenta, or ultra mega grand. And suddenly you're questioning every life choice that led you to this moment. Welcome to the land of the free and the home of the deeply baffling. America is a place where we've normalized some truly bizarre things that would make anyone from outside the country scratch their head and go, wait, that's just how it is here. From the way we measure things seriously, why is a foot 12 inches, who decided that, to the fact that we have entire holidays dedicated to eating until we can't move, there's no shortage of quirks that feel totally ordinary to us but absolutely wild to everyone else. And that's exactly what we're diving into today, 30 totally normal American problems that are anything but normal. Get ready for a journey through the everyday absurdities that define life in the US of A. We're talking about the struggles of trying to pronounce Worcestershire correctly, the existential dread of figuring out which light switch controls which bulb in a house with 17 identical switches, and the sheer chaos of trying to explain why we don't use the metric system without sounding like we're making it up as we go. These are the things that make America uniquely America. So buckle up, because by the end of this you'll either feel seen, offended, or both. And honestly, that's the most American outcome of all. Picture this: you pull up to a fast food drive-thru after a long day, already dreaming of that crispy, salty satisfaction, only to be greeted by a menu board that looks like it was designed by someone who just discovered Photoshop. There's the classic items, sure, but then there's the limited time only section flashing like a Vegas sign, the tiny print disclaimer at the bottom that says prices may vary, and the mysterious item labeled secret menu that no one actually knows how to order. And just when you think you've made up your mind, the person behind you lays on the horn because you've been staring at the menu for 12 whole seconds. Then comes the real test, the speaker box. You lean halfway out your window like a contortionist, trying to project your voice into what might as well be a tin can connected by string. Can I get the, no, wait, not the combo, just the sandwich actually. Can I substitute the fries for onion rings? And can you make that a large, no, wait, medium? Wait, how much is the large again? Meanwhile, the employee on the other end is silently questioning their life choices as they punch in your fourth revision. And let's not forget the grand finale, the pickup window. You hand over your payment only to realize too late that the bag they just handed you is suspiciously light. Wait, where's my drink? Cue the awkward pause while they sigh and grab the cup you definitely ordered but somehow didn't make it into the bag. It's a ritual so uniquely American, it might as well come with its own national anthem. Because nowhere else in the world does grabbing a quick bite involve this much strategy, confusion, and mild public humiliation. Ever open a medical bill and feel like you're decoding ancient hieroglyphics? Welcome to American healthcare billing, where the numbers seem plucked from thin air and the itemized list reads like a foreign language. You'll see charges like facility fee $200 for sitting in a waiting room chair, or miscellaneous supplies $75 for what you swear was just a single gauze pad. And don't even get started on the codes, those random strings of numbers and letters that might as well be lottery numbers for how much sense they make. Oh, that's CPT code 99724. Yeah, that's the holding your hand while you panic upcharge. The real fun begins when you try to get an explanation. Call the billing department and you're passed between 3 different people who each give you a different answer. One says it's a mistake, another blames your insurance, and the third just reads the same cryptic line items back to you slower, as if you're the problem. Meanwhile, the same bandage that costs $50 at hospital A is somehow $300 at hospital B, and no one can tell you why. It's like healthcare pricing is just vibes. And let's talk about the surprise bill special. When you go in for a routine procedure, double check that everyone's in network and still get slapped with a 4-figure invoice because the anesthesiologist was technically a freelancer. It's the only system where you can do everything right and still lose. Even funnier, the bill might show up 6 months later, long after you've forgotten the entire ordeal, like a ghost from your past saying, "Remember that strep test?" Pay up. The best part is how normalized this chaos is. In any other country, this would be a scandal. Here, it's just Tuesday. We've collectively accepted that navigating medical bills requires the same skills as negotiating with a medieval merchant, except instead of haggling over spices, you're begging a call center rep to please, for the love of all that's holy, just tell you what room and board $1,200 actually covers. Spoiler, it's definitely not a 5-star hotel. Nothing spikes your heart rate quite like the moment a payment screen swivels toward you at a coffee shop, that dreaded question blinking, "Add a tip." Suddenly, you're not just buying a latte, you're taking an uninvited pop quiz in moral arithmetic. Do you tip 20% on a $6 drink someone literally just poured? Is 15% stingy now? And why does the lowest option, usually 10%, feel like you're publicly confessing, "I am a bad person"? Tipping in America isn't gratitude, it's a high-stakes performance where everyone's judging your math skills and generosity simultaneously. The rules are unwritten but enforced with laser precision. Bartenders get $1 per drink unless it's craft cocktails, then it's 20%. Movers get tipped in cash, but only after they've heaved your piano up 3 flights without complaint. And heaven help you if you undertip a hairdresser suddenly. Your next haircut might accidentally become a creative interpretation of what you asked for. Then there's the rise of the guilt tip, those tablet screens at self-service yogurt shops or sandwich chains where you're doing all the work, scooping, topping, even swiping your own card. Yet you still panic tip 15% because the cashier is watching. It's the only scenario where you pay extra for the privilege of unpaid labor. And don't forget the ultimate mind game, when the tip suggestions start at 25% and go up to generous soul territory, making 18% look like you're personally bankrupting the staff. The worst part, no one agrees on the rules. Your friend insists you must tip on the pre-tax total. Your cousin swears by post-tax, and the internet is a war zone of conflicting advice. Meanwhile, workers rely on tips because wages haven't caught up to reality, turning every transaction into a tiny crisis of capitalism. So you over-tip to compensate, even when service was mediocre, because what if they remember you next time? What if they spit in your drink? What if you're the reason someone can't pay rent? And just when you think you've cracked the code, you travel abroad and realize most countries just pay living wages and skip this whole circus. But here, tipping isn't optional, it's a socially sanctioned shakedown, and the only winning move is to nervously overpay and pray no one side eyes your life choices. Walk down any American cereal aisle, and suddenly you're not just shopping, you're taking an involuntary Rorschach test for your breakfast preferences. What was once a simple choice between cornflakes and Raisin Bran has exploded into a rainbow-colored nightmare of options, where even the most basic cereal now comes in original, frosted, protein-packed, gluten-free, limited edition unicorn flavor. And what even is this? The psychological toll is real. By the time you reach the end of the aisle, your brain short-circuits, and you either leave with 3 boxes you didn't want or just give up and eat toast for the rest of your life. Take Lucky Charms, a straightforward concept. Marshmallows and oat pieces has metastasized into a franchise worthy of its own theme park. There's the classic version, sure, but then there's Ultra Mega Clusters, Chocolate Moon Phase, and Winter Solstice Edition with snowflake-shaped marshmallows that taste identical but somehow cost $2 more. Half these varieties are just rearrangements of the same 5 ingredients, yet we're expected to believe Rainbow Burst is a life-changing innovation over magical treasure. It's the cereal equivalent of putting the same movie on 5 different streaming platforms and calling it new content. The worst part, the illusion of choice. Flip those boxes around and the nutrition labels are nearly identical, just enough sugar to make a dentist wince, disguised by words like whole grain and fortified with vitamins. But we fall for it every time because that new box has a temporary holographic tiger on it. And hey, maybe this Cinnamon Toast Crunch spin-off will finally fill the void in our souls. Meanwhile, stores in other countries have maybe 6 cereal options total, and somehow their citizens aren't collapsing under the weight of existential breakfast indecision. And let's not forget the real victims here, parents. Imagine being a sleep-deprived adult staring down 47 versions of Cheerios while your kid screams for the box with the cartoon character doing a TikTok dance. You just wanted something to pour milk on, but now you're doing mental gymnastics. Is Oat Blast Dynamo healthier than Honey Nut Oat Fusion? Why does this one cost $6? Is limited edition a threat? Until you finally grab the least offensive box and flee, already dreading next week's rematch with the cereal industrial complex. This isn't shopping, it's a corporate-sponsored obstacle course where the finish line is a bowl of mildly sweetened grains and the lingering suspicion that you definitely picked wrong. You know it's election season in America when your quiet suburban street transforms into a passive-aggressive battleground overnight. One day, it's just lawns and mailboxes. The next, it's a propaganda war where every yard sign is a declaration of allegiance. That lone Smith for Mayor placard, by sunrise, it's surrounded by a rival campaign's signs like it's being ambushed. And God help you if you accidentally back over one with your lawnmower suddenly. You're not just a neighbor, you're a political saboteur. These signs aren't just advertisements, they're territorial markers. The unspoken rules are brutal. If your candidate's sign gets stolen or mysteriously knocked over, you're obligated to replace it within 24 hours, but make it bigger. What started as a modest wire-frame placard escalates into a 3-foot-wide, weatherproof monstrosity with reflective lettering, as if to say, "Yeah, I saw your vandalism, Karen." Try again. Meanwhile, the house across the street counters with not 1 but 5 identical signs in a perfect grid, because apparently democracy now runs on quantity over quality. Then there's the signage arms race. One neighbor opts for the classic plastic stake, another upgrades to a full-size corrugated billboard, and before you know it, someone's erected a glowing LED sign that's visible from space. It's no longer about votes, it's about dominance, and the real power move, the household that plants signs for both candidates, just to watch the block lose its collective mind. The hypocrisy is delicious. The same people who post "be kind" on social media will side-eye you for months if you dare to support the wrong candidate. Forget holiday cookie exchanges, this is the real test of neighborhood diplomacy. Because in America, nothing unites a community quite like silently judging each other's lawn decor until election day mercifully arrives and the losing side's signs vanish by dawn like they were never there at all. Twice a year, like clockwork, America collectively loses its mind over a question that should be simple. Which way do we move the clocks? Daylight saving time rolls around, and suddenly every adult turns into a toddler holding a broken hourglass. Spring forward sounds easy until you're standing in your kitchen at 2 in the morning, staring at the microwave like it's a bomb about to detonate. Wait, does this thing update itself? Should you press plus or minus? Why is there no universal handbook for this ritual that's been happening since World War I? Then comes the aftermath. The first Monday after the time change is a national day of zombie impersonations. Half the country shows up to work bleary-eyed, clutching coffee like it's an Roman IV drip, while the other half accidentally waltzes into church an hour early because their smartwatch didn't sync properly. Restaurants brace for the inevitable brunch rush of confused patrons who either missed their reservation by 60 minutes or camped out at the table before the kitchen even turned on the ovens. Meanwhile, parents of small children become involuntary time travelers. As toddlers don't care about man-made clock adjustments, they wake up at what their tiny dictator brains decree is morning, which is now suddenly 5:30 in the actual morning. The real kicker, nobody actually agrees this is a good idea. Farmers hate it, sleep scientists say it's terrible for our health. Even the guy who invented it reportedly regretted it. Yet here we are, still doing the biannual clock shuffle like it's some sacred tradition instead of a holdover from a time when people thought extra sunlight would save candle wax. The debates rage on, should we stay on standard time forever, make daylight saving permanent, or just admit defeat and let every state do whatever they want, turning time zones into a free-for-all where your phone automatically updates but your oven clock is stuck in some alternate dimension. And let's not forget the technology divide. Your smartphone silently adjusts like a smug overachiever, while your car radio blinks 12:00 until July like it's gaslighting you. You'll spend weeks doing mental math every time you glance at a clock. Wait, is this the right time or the old time? Until one day in May, you finally remember to fix the microwave just in time for November's rewind. The most American part, we've somehow convinced ourselves this chaos is normal. Other countries either ditched daylight saving ages ago or never adopted it in the first place. But here, we'll complain loudly, lose sleep literally and figuratively, and then do it all over again 6 months later, because nothing says land of the free like willingly subjecting yourself to unnecessary temporal whiplash twice a year and still not being sure if you're early or late. Stepping into an American office building in July should feel like a relief from the sweltering heat instead. It's like walking into a meat locker operated by someone with a personal vendetta against summer. The air conditioning isn't just on, it's set to simulate Antarctica, blasting so hard you half expect to see penguins waddling past the water cooler. You came in wearing shorts and sandals, but within 10 minutes, you're digging through the office lost and found for a forgotten sweater, questioning whether you accidentally boarded a flight to the Arctic Circle. This isn't just comfort, it's a full-on temperature arms race. Restaurants crank the AC until your salad fork feels like an ice pick. Movie theaters turn into igloos where popcorn butter solidifies mid-bite. And grocery stores have you shivering in the cereal aisle like you're stranded on a glacier. The irony, it's 95 degrees outside, but indoors you're considering hand warmers. Floridians famously keep cardigans at their desks year-round, while Texans have been known to blast heaters under their desks in August. It's the only place where beat the heat means dressing for 2 entirely different climates before lunch, and the excuse is legendary: the thermostat's locked. Usually controlled by a mythical building manager who last visited in 1987. It's to protect the computers, as if your laptop personally requested a wind chill factor. It's cheaper to keep it cold. Spoiler, it's not. Meanwhile, employees wage silent wars. One coworker sneaks the temperature up to 68 degrees, only for someone else to accidentally bump it back down to 60 while muttering about circulation. The real kicker, no one's happy. The cold-blooded among us are smug in their parkas, while the rest of humanity huddles under space blankets, slowly losing feeling in their toes. It's a uniquely American madness. We'll argue about healthcare and taxes, but we've collectively accepted that enduring 4 seasons in one workday is just part of the grind. Walk into any conference room, and you'll find half the attendees red-nosed and clutching steaming coffees for warmth, while the other half fans themselves with paperwork, dreaming of the sweet release of stepping outside into what now feels like a sauna. Meanwhile, the rest of the world watches in bafflement. In Europe, buildings might have a fan. In Japan, officers set AC to a humane 28 degrees Celsius, that's 82 Fahrenheit, you freezer dwellers. But here, we treat air conditioning like a national sport, where the goal is to see who can withstand the most hypothermia before asking HR for a heated keyboard. It's not climate control, it's a test of endurance, and honestly, we're all losing. There's something uniquely American about standing in a gas station at midnight, staring at a rotating glass case of pizza slices under fluorescent lights and thinking, this might be the best decision I've ever made. Gas station pizza shouldn't work. By all logic, it should be a culinary crime, a sad, greasy afterthought next to the beef jerky and energy drinks, but somehow, against all odds, it's good. Suspiciously good, the kind of good that makes you question whether you've been overpaying for artisanal, wood-fired crust your entire life. Let's break down the paradox. The cheese is the exact shade of orange that doesn't exist in nature, stretched to improbable lengths with every bite. The pepperoni curls into tiny grease cups, pooling just enough salt and fat to make your taste buds sing hallelujah. And the crust, somehow both crisp and pillowy, like it defied the laws of baking physics just to spite fancy brick ovens. It's the underdog of the food world, a $5 slice that punches so far above its weight, you half expect Gordon Ramsay to burst through the door and demand the recipe. The magic lies in the lack of pretense. There's no hand-tossed by a third-generation pizzaiolo backstory here. No truffle oil drizzles or arugula garnishes. Just a no-nonsense, unapologetic slab of comfort food that knows exactly what it is, fuel for the soul, served next to the diesel pumps. It's the ultimate democratization of pizza where a truck driver and a college student can have the same transcendent experience at 2 in the morning, bonding over the shared realization that, yes, this gas station just out-pizzaed the trendy spot downtown. And yet, admitting you love it feels like confessing a guilty secret. You'll defend your local hole-in-the-wall Neapolitan joint to the death, but when no one's watching, you're sneaking a slice from the come and go like it's a forbidden romance. Maybe it's the nostalgia factor, the same part of your brain that lights up for neon-lit road trips and late-night convenience store raids. Or maybe it's the sheer audacity of the thing, a food that thrives in the unlikeliest place, refusing to be anything but delicious. The real kicker, try describing this phenomenon to someone from another country. Oh yes, our petrol stations serve pizza. No, not reheated frozen junk, actual good pizza. Watch their face cycle through confusion, horror, and reluctant curiosity before they whisper, "Can we go get some right now?" Because deep down, everyone knows the best adventures and the best pizza often happen where you least expect them, even if that means eating it off a paper towel while your gas tank fills. Navigating a Walmart parking lot is like playing the world's most chaotic game of Tetris, except the blocks are shopping carts with a mind of their own. The player is sleep-deprived, and the only prize is the faint hope of not getting your door dinged by a rogue SUV. You circle the lot like a vulture, eyeing that one spot near the entrance, only to watch in slow motion as a minivan swoops in like it's claiming the last lifeboat on the Titanic. And when you finally accept defeat and park in the hinterlands, you realize the real challenge is just beginning. The carts. Oh, the carts. They migrate like buffalo herds, gathering in clusters that defy physics. Some are wedged between cars at precarious angles, others abandoned in the middle of the lane like modern art installations titled "Capitalism's Aftermath." You'll spot the occasional hero trying to return one to the corral, but they're outnumbered by the folks who treat cart returns like a suggestion, leaving their metal steeds to roam free, ready to roll into your bumper the moment the wind picks up. Then there's the parking etiquette or lack thereof. The pickup truck parked diagonally across 2 spaces because it's a big truck, bro. The sedan that's so far over the line you have to slide out of your car like a contortionist. And don't forget the eternal mystery of the just one more row paradox. No matter how many times you loop the lot, the closest spot is always 5 rows farther than you're willing to walk. You could have sprinted to the store and back by now, but pride won't let you admit defeat. The real thrill, the post-shopping reenactment. Arms loaded with bags, you emerge to find your car has been subtly boxed in by a lineup of vehicles that weren't there when you arrived. Now you're playing reverse Tetris, trying to angle your grocery haul into the trunk without smacking the adjacent car with a loaf of bread. And just when you think you've escaped, you spot a rogue cart rolling toward your bumper in your rearview mirror, because Walmart parking lots are the only places where inanimate objects actively seek vengeance. What makes this uniquely American? The sheer scale, acres of asphalt, a sea of vehicles, and a collective understanding that this is just how it goes. In other countries, parking might be tight, but it's orderly. Here, it's a free-for-all, a microcosm of our love for space, convenience, and mild vehicular anarchy. We complain, we strategize, but deep down we know the day Walmart parking lots make sense is the day America stops being America. There's a uniquely American form of psychological warfare, and it happens at the soda fountain. You sit down at a diner, parched from the summer heat, and the server drops off your drink with those magic words, free refills. What starts as a simple glass of iced tea quickly spirals into a high-stakes hydration experiment. You're not just drinking, you're committing to a marathon where the only finish line is your own bladder's surrender. The first refill feels like a victory. You've beaten the system. Why pay $3 for a tiny bottle at the gas station when you can mainline bottomless Dr. Pepper for the price of a single cup? But by refill number 3, the cracks begin to show. The ice has melted, diluting your soda into a sad, fizzy shadow of its former self. Your straw makes that ominous slurping sound, signaling another trip to the fountain, where you'll inevitably forget which button was Sprite and accidentally create a Franken drink mixing 7 flavors. Meanwhile, your stomach audibly groans, wondering why you've turned it into a carbonated water balloon. The real trap, the social contract. Walking past the soda machine feels like leaving money on the table, so you force down another cup just to feel like you're getting your worth. Your table becomes a graveyard of half-finished glasses, each one a monument to good intentions gone wrong. And let's be honest, no one actually wants that 4th refill. You're not thirsty, you're just conditioned to fear waste in a country where all you can eat is a moral imperative. Then there's the whiplash of international confusion. Visitors from abroad stare in horror as you casually refill your cup for the 5th time, like you're some kind of beverage-hoarding supervillain. You mean they just let you? They whisper as if witnessing a glitch in the Matrix. Meanwhile, you're too busy calculating whether it's socially acceptable to ask for a to-go cup for your 8th cherry Coke to explain that, yes, this is how we roll straight into a sugar crash. The irony, we've normalized this madness while also selling premium bottled water for $7 a pop. One hand giveth unlimited syrup laden caffeine, the other taketh away with artisanal alkaline nonsense. It's the culinary equivalent of giving someone a jetpack and then charging them for oxygen. But hey, at least you'll never leave a restaurant dehydrated, just slightly delirious, clutching your stomach and vowing to just get water next time. Spoiler, you won't. You've probably had that moment in an American restaurant where the server asks, small, medium, or large, and you think, well, I'm not that hungry. So you go with small, only to be presented with a plate that could feed a family of 4 and a drink roughly the size of a fishbowl. What we call a small in the U.S. would be labeled absurdly massive anywhere else on the planet. Order a child-sized drink in America, and you're basically handed a bucket with a straw, while that same order in Europe gets you a modest cup that actually fits in a toddler's grip without requiring a forklift to lift. Take soda, for example. Walk into any fast food joint here, and the small is often 20 ounces. That's nearly 3 times the standard serving size recommended by nutritionists. By comparison, in Japan, a large drink might top out at 12 ounces, and in France, you're lucky to get 8. It's not just drinks either. A small fries at a U.S. burger chain is often bigger than what passes for a large in the UK, and our individual pizzas could easily double as emergency flotation devices. Meanwhile, Italians are savoring personal-sized pies that actually fit on a single plate without overlapping the edges. The real culture shock comes when Americans travel abroad and experience portion-size whiplash firsthand. You sit down at a cafe in Spain, order a big coffee, and receive a demitasse cup that looks like it belongs in a dollhouse. Or you ask for a regular smoothie in Germany and get something that wouldn't fill a shot glass. It's enough to make you wonder, are we eating more or have we just lost all sense of scale? The answer is both. Studies show U.S. portion sizes have ballooned over the decades, with today's average restaurant meal containing 4 times more calories than it did in the 1950s. Yet we still call it small, as if we've collectively agreed to gaslight ourselves into thinking this is normal. And let's talk about the psychology behind it. In America, bigger portions equal better value. We see a mountain of food and think, what a deal. Never mind that half of it will end up in a to-go box, forgotten in the fridge until it evolves into a science experiment. Overseas, the focus is on quality over quantity. A French pastry chef would sooner quit than serve a croissant the size of a football, not because they're stingy, but because they know one perfect, buttery bite beats a gallon of mediocrity. The funniest part, we act like this is a surprise every time. You'll watch someone order a small milkshake at a diner, gasp when it arrives in what's essentially a mixing bowl, then proceed to drink the whole thing anyway because free refills aren't the only thing we've been conditioned to finish. It's a vicious cycle. Portions grow, our eyes adjust, and suddenly, a normal-sized meal feels like an insult. Meanwhile, the rest of the world watches in equal parts awe and horror as we casually tackle a breakfast platter that could sustain a small village, then wonder why our pants feel tight. The ultimate irony, we'll pay extra at fancy restaurants for small plates modeled after European portions, calling them artisanal and sophisticated, all while our fast food bags sag under the weight of what's basically a grocery haul. It's not just a meal, it's a national identity crisis served with a side of ranch dressing and a liter of soda. And the worst part, we wouldn't have it any other way. Because in America, go big or go home isn't just a saying, it's a dietary guideline. There comes a point every summer when you stroll into your local drugstore for sunscreen, only to be ambushed by a tidal wave of orange and black packaging Halloween candy, set up in August like some kind of sugary invasion. Meanwhile, back-to-school supplies are still on clearance, and you haven't even eaten a single Labor Day hot dog yet. This, friends, is holiday creep in its purest form. The retail industry's relentless march to make every festive occasion overlap until the calendar becomes a blur of forced merriment and shelf space wars. It starts innocently enough, a single end cap of pumpkin spice coffee in September, a rogue inflatable reindeer spotted in October. But before you know it, Thanksgiving gets bulldozed by a tinsel tsunami, and you're listening to Jingle Bell Rock while scraping Halloween frosting off your jeans. The strategy is simple. Extend the selling season until consumers are so fatigued they'll buy anything just to make it stop. Christmas decorations now hit stores before some kids have even picked out their Halloween costumes, as if the retail gods are whispering, "Why wait for joy when you can monetize anticipation?" The real victims here are the holidays themselves. Remember when Halloween felt special because it arrived in October, not August, when Christmas lights twinkled to life after you digested your turkey. Now Thanksgiving, a holiday literally about pausing to appreciate what you have, is crammed between a Halloween clearance sale and a Black Friday countdown, reduced to little more than a speed bump in the holiday sales race. Even stores can't keep up. you'll see jack-o'-lanterns next to Santa figurines, creating a surreal dystopia where every holiday exists in a perpetual state of coming soon. And let's talk about the psychological toll. By the time the actual holiday rolls around, you're already sick of it. The magic of Christmas morning feels dimmer when you've been bombarded with ads since Veterans Day. That first bite of Halloween candy loses its thrill when you've been dodging mini Snickers at the checkout lane for 2 months. It's like being force-fed cake for breakfast, lunch, and dinner eventually. Even frosting tastes like obligation. The irony, other countries haven't fully surrendered to this madness. In the UK, Christmas decorations traditionally go up in December, not mid-autumn. In Japan, Halloween was barely a thing until recently, and even now, it's a focused burst of fun, not a 3-month marketing siege. But here, we've turned holidays into a retail relay race where the baton is your paycheck and the finish line is your exhaustion. The worst part, we're complicit. We grumble about holiday creep while buying Halloween candy in September just to get ahead, or snagging discounted ornaments in October because it's a good deal. The cycle feeds itself. Stores push, we buy, and the next year starts even earlier. It's the capitalist equivalent of peeking at your presents before Christmas, except instead of ruining the surprise, you're just ruining the calendar. So here we are, living in a world where spooky season begins while pools are still open, and Mariah Carey defrosts earlier than the Thanksgiving turkey. The holidays haven't just crept, they've sprinted, leaving us breathless, broke, and wondering why we're staring at a heart-shaped chocolate display in December when we haven't taken down the tree yet. Maybe the real horror story isn't Halloween in August. It's realizing we've all signed up for this marathon without even knowing when the race began. There's a special kind of betrayal that happens when you're humming along to the radio, trusting your GPS like it's some all-knowing oracle, only for it to suddenly announce, in 500 feet, turn right onto unpaved road, and you realize you've been led astray. What was supposed to be a 10-minute shortcut has morphed into a backwoods horror movie set, complete with potholes deep enough to swallow a smart car and a suspiciously aggressive flock of geese that seem to recognize you as an outsider. GPS technology was supposed to eliminate the guesswork of navigation, but instead, it's become a masterclass in technically correct directions that ignore the human element. Sure, that dirt path might technically save you 30 seconds, if you're driving a tank and don't mind sacrificing your suspension to the pothole gods. Meanwhile, the app blissfully ignores the fact that the road hasn't been maintained since the Reagan administration, or that the light traffic it promised actually means a 12-car pileup at the interstate exit you were supposed to take 10 minutes ago. Then there's the construction zone conspiracy. You'll be cruising along, following every turn with robotic precision, when suddenly the cheerful voice says, "Continue straight for 5 miles, right into a freshly barricaded lane with orange cones stretching to the horizon." The detour signs are nowhere in sight, and your GPS, undeterred, keeps insisting you're on the fastest route. It's like watching a stubborn friend double down on bad directions even as you pass the same burned-out barn for the 3rd time. The real kicker, the passive-aggressive reroute. Miss a turn because the GPS waited until the last second to announce it. No problem at all, recalculating you onto a labyrinth of side streets that have you zigzagging through neighborhoods like a suspect in a police chase. You'll pass the same elementary school 3 times, each time with more existential dread, as the ETA mysteriously increases despite your frantic obedience. And let's talk about the voice, that unnervingly calm tone as it guides you into increasingly questionable decisions. Turn left onto private driveway. Make a U-turn at cliff edge. Like a sociopathic co-pilot gaslighting you into off-roading in a Prius. The worst part, we keep trusting it. There's something uniquely American about blindly following a machine's orders, even as your gut screams, "This can't be right," because the alternative, admitting you're lost, is somehow more terrifying than a face-off with those territorial geese. Meanwhile, older generations chuckle from the passenger seat, unfolding actual paper maps like they're revealing ancient scrolls of wisdom. Back in my day, we used landmarks, they'll say, as you swerve to avoid a pothole the size of a kiddie pool. Maybe they've got a point, because no matter how advanced the algorithm, it'll never account for the sheer chaos of real-life roads, where fastest route often means greatest adventure, whether you wanted one or not. You're just trying to buy some allergy meds, your eyes are watering, your nose is auditioning for a faucet commercial, and all you want is to swipe your card and flee. But no, the pharmacy checkout transforms into an interrogation room where you're the star suspect and the cashier has a script to follow. Would you like to sign up for our rewards program today? They ask as if the seventh time's the charm. You mumble, no thanks, but the line of judgmental customers behind you hears it as, please judge my life choices. Here's how the gauntlet unfolds. First, there's the initial ask, polite, almost hopeful. You decline with minimal eye contact. Then comes the follow-up, are you sure? You'd save 15% today. Suddenly, math becomes your enemy as you calculate whether enduring this exchange is worth the price of a latte. The third volley, it only takes 30 seconds to sign up. As if anyone in history has ever completed a rewards application in the promised time. Meanwhile, the queue behind you grows restless, arms crossed, eyes drilling into your back like you're personally delaying their prescriptions. The real tragedy, the script doesn't end. Would you like to donate $1 to insert vaguely medical charity here? Is next, turning your sniffles into a public morality test. Say no and you're a heartless monster. Say yes, and now you're the person holding up the line while the cashier fumbles with the donation screen. By the time they ask if you've considered switching to our pharmacy benefits program, you're weighing whether living with untreated allergies is preferable to this social torture. Let's not forget the unspoken rules of pharmacy checkout etiquette. The person behind you sighs audibly as you fish out your ID for cold medicine, as if they've never once purchased Sudafed in their lives. The cashier, trapped by corporate policy, looks just as exhausted as you feel, and the self-checkout, a cruel mirage because even if you dodge human interaction, the machine will still bombard you with pop-ups demanding your email for digital coupons you'll never use. The irony is palpable. You came here for relief, but the true allergy is to awkward social transactions. In other countries, you grab your goods, pay, and leave. No loyalty shakedown, no guilt trip donations, no audience of impatient strangers. But here, the only thing more congested than your sinuses is the emotional baggage of buying basic healthcare supplies. Next time, you might just suffer through the pollen season. At least sneezing won't ask for your phone number. There's nothing quite like the existential terror of a perfectly ordinary Tuesday afternoon when every single phone in America suddenly shrieks in unison, not because of a group chat implosion, but because the U.S. government has decided it's time for a surprise drill. Welcome to the Presidential Alert System, the only notification that bypasses do not disturb mode, just to remind you that, yes, theoretically, someone could nuke us all before happy hour. You'll be mid-scroll, half paying attention to a video of a cat playing piano, when your screen flashes blood red and your device unleashes a noise that sounds like the trumpet of the apocalypse. For a split second, your brain cycles through every disaster movie you've ever seen. Is this it? Did someone finally push the button, only to read, "This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System"? No action needed. The whiplash is visceral, relief floods in, followed immediately by outrage that your cardio workout came courtesy of a bureaucratic checkbox. The absurdity lies in the execution. These alerts don't gently vibrate or ping like a text. They bypass all volume settings to blast at a decibel level usually reserved for air raid sirens, ensuring that even if you're in a library, a meeting, or a coma, you will jump. Coffee is spilled, heart stop, pets bolt under furniture. Meanwhile, the government stance is essentially, "This is for your safety," as if they're not fully aware they've weaponized push notifications. Stranger still, there's no opt-out. You can silence political ads, mute spam calls, and block your ex. But when Uncle Sam wants to remind you he could ruin your day if he felt like it, resistance is futile. It's like being signed up for a surprise fire drill you didn't consent to, except instead of your office manager pulling the alarm, it's the entire Department of Homeland Security. The aftermath is pure chaos. Social media erupts with memes of people's final texts before realizing it's just a test. Conspiracy theorists insist the alerts are actually mind control experiments. And somewhere, a group of policymakers nod solemnly, convinced they've just performed a vital public service, while the rest of us clutch our chests and wonder if this is how we die, not from the emergency, but from the alert about the possibility of an emergency. The real kicker: no other country does this quite like we do. In Japan, earthquake alerts are finely tuned and localized. In Europe, emergency systems are rarely tested nationwide. But America, we turn every citizen's pocket into a panic button twice a year because nothing says "land of the free" like involuntary participation in a dystopian group chat where the only admin is the Pentagon. So the next time your phone screams like it's witnessed the rapture, take a deep breath. It's just our tax dollars at work, reminding us that in the grand theater of American life, even preparedness comes with a side of psychological warfare. And hey, at least it's not an actual missile, probably. Nothing confuses European visitors to America quite like watching a server hand them a beverage that's roughly 60% ice. That first sip of water hits like an Arctic wind, sending shockwaves through teeth unaccustomed to such glacial treatment. While most of the world treats ice as an optional garnish, we treat it like a structural foundation, stacking cubes so high they could double as modern art sculptures titled, "Why Can't You Just Drink Liquid?" The ice obsession starts young. American kids learn to expect a frosty mountain in every cup, as if room temperature lemonade is some kind of barbaric practice. Fast food joints take it to extremes: fill a cup to the top with ice, then pour in just enough soda to turn those cubes into flavor props. You're basically paying for the privilege of chewing your drink. And don't even try asking for light ice. That request is met with the same suspicion as ordering a steak well done. The server might comply, but you'll catch them side-eyeing you like you've insulted their ancestry. Dentists love this quirk, by the way. Sensitive teeth are practically a national pastime here, with entire industries built around enamel repair, toothpastes, and numbing gels. Meanwhile, Italians are out here sipping espresso at scalding temperatures without flinching, and Brits nurse warm pints like it's no big deal. Our transatlantic friends watch in horror as we crunch through ice like it's popcorn, wincing on our behalf with every audible crack. Then there's the great iced coffee divide. Walk into a Parisian cafe and ask for ice, and they'll hand you two modest cubes like you're a delicate flower who can't handle caffeine at natural temperatures. In America, your iced coffee comes pre-slung with enough ice to preserve a woolly mammoth, ensuring the first half is strong and the second half is sad, diluted swill. We've turned refreshing into a euphemism for mostly frozen water with a hint of flavor. The real kicker: science says we're doing it wrong. Cold dulls taste buds, meaning we're numbing our tongues to the very drinks we paid to enjoy. Fancy mixologists know this. That's why craft cocktails are served with one perfect cube, not an avalanche. But try telling that to the diner waitress who just dumped an entire scoop into your sweet tea without breaking eye contact, silently daring you to complain. This isn't just preference, it's cultural conditioning. Ice became a status symbol in the early 1900s when refrigeration was novel. Now it's a reflexive habit, like applauding when planes land or putting cheese on everything. We don't question it, we just accept that beverages should come with a side of jawash. The rest of the world finds this baffling, but that's okay, more ice for us. Just maybe let the dentist know you're coming. You ever peel open a package of sliced cheese only to discover each individual slice comes wrapped in its own plastic tomb? Or pick up a banana, nature's perfect pre-wrapped snack, and find it suffocating under a hermetic seal of shrink wrap? Welcome to America's obsession with overpackaging, where convenience has birthed a monstrosity of unnecessary plastic, styrofoam, and cardboard that would make even environmentalists weep into their reusable totes. Take the humble cucumber. In most of the world, you grab it bare, give it a rinse, and call it a day. Here, it's entombed in a plastic coffin tighter than a vacuum-sealed time capsule, as if the vegetable might spontaneously decompose the moment it breathes fresh air. The irony is palpable. We're protecting produce that's already evolved over millennia to protect itself. But no, your 4-pack of apples needs its own polystyrene tray, cling wrap, and cardboard sleeve because apparently the apple's natural waxy coating wasn't doing enough heavy lifting. Then there's fast food, where even a single cookie requires a fortress of packaging. It's nestled in a paper sleeve, slipped into a plastic bag, then tossed into a larger paper bag with enough wax lining to survive a monsoon. By the time you excavate your snack, you've generated enough trash to fill a recycling bin, except half of it isn't even recyclable thanks to the mysterious mixed materials curse. And don't get me started on family-sized chip bags that are 50% air, 10% chips, and 40% regret, the pinnacle of absurdity. Individually wrapped peels, that's right, oranges and bananas, fruits that literally come with built-in biodegradable wrappers, now sometimes get plastic overwraps in stores. It's like selling raincoats pre-sealed in Ziplocs. The justification is usually hygiene or extended shelf life, but let's be real, no one in history has ever thought, this banana would be perfect if only it spent 6 weeks in a petrochemical womb first. Meanwhile, landfills groan under the weight of our paranoia. The average American generates over 4 pounds of trash daily, much of it from packaging designed to last centuries, protecting a product consumed in minutes. Other countries have figured this out. Germany forces manufacturers to take back packaging for recycling. Japan wraps bento boxes in elegant reusable furoshiki cloth, and France has outright banned certain single-use plastics. But here, we're still out here buying snack packs of almonds that contain 12 separate foil pouches inside a cardboard box inside a plastic display tray. The psychological toll is real too. Unwrapping a granola bar shouldn't feel like disarming a bomb, yet here we are, picking bits of foil out of our teeth while the debris pile on the table grows. And for what? So corporations can slap resealable freshness on the label and charge an extra $1. It's a masterclass in manufactured necessity. We've been trained to equate layers of plastic with premium quality, even when the product inside is identical to its unpackaged counterpart. The worst part, we know better. Deep down, we know that sea turtles don't need another yogurt cup ring around their necks. We know that microplastics are raining down on national parks. Yet we keep buying pre-peeled oranges in clamshells because it's easier, ignoring the fact that our grandparents managed to peel fruit just fine without single-use plastic gloves. It's not just wasteful, it's a bizarre surrender of common sense, all for the illusion of convenience. So next time you're faced with a plastic-wrapped coconut, yes, that exists, ask yourself, is this actually necessary, or have we just forgotten how to exist without a trash can trailing behind us like a shameful shadow? The answer might just make you reach for the loose produce and maybe even bring your own bag. Nothing says American sports logic quite like a team name that makes 0 sense for its city. Like the Utah Jazz, a name that clings desperately to its New Orleans roots like a divorced dad holding onto his old concert t-shirts. How did we end up with the Los Angeles Lakers in a metropolis where the nearest natural lake is a decorative pond at the mall? Or the Arizona Cardinals, named after a bird that's never even flown over the state? This isn't just branding. It's a full-blown identity crisis where franchises drag their names across the country like emotional baggage, leaving geography nerds screaming at maps. Take the Jazz. Born in New Orleans, where jazz music literally bubbled up from the streets, the team packed up in the 1970s and moved to Utah, a state better known for ski resorts and sobriety than saxophones. The name stayed forever a monument to corporate indifference, like naming a Seattle soccer team the Miami Hurricanes. Then there's the Lakers, who began in Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, only to bolt for sunny, lake-deficient L.A. It'd be like the Florida snowbirds relocating to the Sahara and keeping the mascot. The explanations are flimsier than arena nachos. Team owners insist these names honor history, but let's be real, it's cheaper to keep the old merch than rebrand. Imagine the Memphis Blues stolen from Seattle's music scene, or the Indianapolis Racers, because nothing says speed like Midwestern highways at rush hour. The cognitive dissonance reaches peak absurdity when teams double down, like the L.A. Clippers, originally from San Diego, a city with actual sailing ships, now languishing in a landlocked concrete jungle. Fans play along too, wearing jerseys with names that belong to other cities like they're in a sports-themed witness protection program. Try explaining to a European why the Anaheim Ducks aren't named for waterfowl but for a Disney movie, or why the Brooklyn Nets kept a name that references New Jersey's defunct textile industry. Even the Raiders, once Oakland's pride, now blitz Las Vegas, where the only raiding happening is on casino buffets. The real kicker, newer teams still get it wrong. The Utah Hockey Club, real creative guys, could have embraced the state's red rock landscapes or Mormon crickets, but no. They went with a temporary name so generic, it sounds like a default option in a video game. Meanwhile, cities beg for expansion teams, only to christen them with names like Commanders or Panthers, ignoring local law in favor of focus-grouped nonsense. This isn't just trivia, it's a cultural phenomenon. In a country where you can order Kansas City BBQ in Maine or Philly cheesesteaks in Phoenix, maybe it's fitting that our sports teams are just as unmoored from reality. After all, if we can stomach the idea of the Arizona Diamondbacks playing in an air-conditioned dome, we'll believe anything, even that the Las Vegas A's might someday hit a home run. You're finally at the front of the line at that hipster cafe you saw on Instagram, ready to pay $7 for artisanal avocado mush on toast, only for the barista to hit you with a smile and the four most devastating words in modern commerce: sorry, we're cash only. Suddenly, your sleek digital wallet is as useless as a screen door on a submarine, and you're thrust into a scavenger hunt for physical currency like it's 1995. This isn't just inconvenient, it's a financial shakedown wrapped in vintage aesthetic. That $8 toast now costs $12 after the ATM fee, plus the 2 blocks you have to walk to find a machine that hasn't been siphoned dry by other card-carrying victims. And let's talk about those ATMs. They're always tucked in the sketchiest alleys or inside bodegas that charge $3 just for the privilege of accessing your own money, like a toll booth run by bandits. By the time you return, sweating and clutching a crumpled 20, the cafe's Wi-Fi playlist is blasting ironic yacht rock, and the line is twice as long. The irony: these places love to preach about sustainability and inclusivity, while excluding anyone who doesn't carry cash, a demographic that includes most millennials and anyone who's ever had their wallet stolen. It's about supporting local businesses, they say, as if Visa isn't cutting them a check either way. Meanwhile, their quirky, cash-only policy forces patrons to fund the very banking fees they claim to hate, all while the owners skip the credit card processing fees like it's some kind of fiscal hack. The worst offenders are the ones who drop this bombshell after you've already eaten. Nothing humbles you faster than scraping together nickels from the bottom of your bag like a Dickensian orphan while the staff watches in silent judgment. And God help you if you're visiting from abroad. Foreign cards often get hit with extra ATM fees. turning your matcha latte into a $20 lesson in American payment absurdity. Meanwhile, in the rest of the developed world, cashless cafes are the norm. Sweden phased out physical currency years ago, and even street vendors in Bangkok take QR payments. But here, we've romanticized the simplicity of cash so hard that we'll tolerate lines snaking out the door while someone ahead of us counts out exact change in pennies. It's not charming, it's performative nostalgia, like using a typewriter in a coffee shop or refusing to download the menu QR code, the real punchline. These same cafes will have Venmo handles plastered everywhere for tips because apparently digital payments are only evil when they're not funding the staff's rent. So next time you see a cash-preferred sign, just walk out. That avocado toast isn't worth becoming an unwilling participant in someone else's anti-establishment cosplay. 1 minute you're strolling down a tree-lined sidewalk, lost in thought. The next, you're performing an impromptu hopscotch routine to avoid a jagged concrete chasm that appeared out of nowhere. Welcome to Sidewalk Roulette, America's most underrated extreme sport, where every step could send you airborne if you don't respect the urban terrain. These aren't just cracks, they're full-blown topography changes, with elevation shifts so dramatic you half expect a park ranger to post warning signs. One block it's smooth pavement, the next it's a 3-inch cliff edge disguised as pedestrian infrastructure, waiting to catch the toe of your sneaker like a bear trap. The psychology behind these sidewalk betrayals is fascinating. Cities will spend millions repaving roads but treat pedestrian pathways like an afterthought, resulting in patchwork quilts of asphalt, concrete, and suspiciously placed bricks that seem designed to launch strollers into orbit. Some slabs tilt at angles worthy of a skate park, while others disappear entirely, forcing you to choose between trespassing through someone's lawn or braving the shoulder of a 45-mile-per-hour thoroughfare. And let's talk about those temporary construction detours that outlast presidential terms, where yellow caution tape becomes a permanent sidewalk accessory flapping in the breeze like some sad urban flag. The real victims, anyone pushing a wheelchair or stroller, suddenly transformed into amateur off-roaders navigating what amounts to an obstacle course designed by a sadistic civil engineer. Curb cuts mysteriously dead end into utility poles, ramps slope directly into storm drains, and accessible crossings are about as common as unicorns. Meanwhile, cities proudly announce walkability initiatives, while residents perform involuntary parkour just to reach the crosswalk. Then there's the seasonal evolution of sidewalk hazards. Summer heat buckles slabs into miniature tectonic plates, autumn leaves camouflage deadly potholes, and winter turns every untreated stretch into an Olympic luge track. You haven't truly experienced American winter until you've witnessed a grown adult penguin walking down an icy sidewalk with groceries in hand, eyes locked in silent terror on the next potentially femur-fracturing step. The most insulting part, we've normalized this. Joggers memorize fault lines like trail guides, dog walkers develop sixth senses for trip hazards, and tourists wander in confused clusters, never sure if the sidewalk will abandon them mid-block. Other countries fine property owners for uneven walkways or mandate continuous pedestrian routes. Here, we shrug, slap a plastic orange cone next to the worst offenders and call it a day, because nothing says land of the free like your right to navigate public spaces without requiring a spotter. So next time you're out walking and your ankle suddenly twists 45 degrees for no apparent reason, take comfort. You're not clumsy, you're just participating in an unofficial national pastime where the only winning move is watching your step. Literally, nothing prepares you for that moment at the register when the cashier rings up your $4.99 gum pack and suddenly you're fumbling for extra coins because the total is $5.42. Welcome to America's favorite math pop quiz, the sales tax surprise, where sticker prices are mere suggestions and every purchase comes with a hidden final boss. In most civilized countries, what you see is what you pay. But here, we treat price tags like cryptic treasure maps where the real cost is buried under layers of invisible fees. That $5 smoothie, actually $5.53. The $10 movie ticket, try $11.25. It's financial whack aim, all where the mallet is your dwindling self-control and every gotcha ding of the register chips away at your sanity. The psychological toll is real. You carefully curate a basket of items adding up to $20 exactly, only to realize too late that your crisp bill won't cover the sneaky $2 tax ambush. Now you're that person holding up the line while doing mental gymnastics, debating whether to put back the granola bars or swallow your pride and break out the card for a 42-cent charge. Meanwhile, European tourists watch in horror, whispering to each other. They don't include tax in the price. Is this legal? What makes this uniquely American isn't just the math, it's the inconsistency. Tax rates vary not just by state, but by county, city, and sometimes even neighborhood. Gas stations on opposite sides of the street might charge different amounts because one's technically in a special business improvement district. Buying a sweater could cost you 8% tax downtown but 6% at the mall 3 exits away. It's like playing fiscal Russian roulette every time you swipe your card. The justifications sound reasonable until you think about them. It makes prices look lower, okay, but does anyone actually fall for that after the 5th time they've been burned? Businesses don't want to reprint signs. Meanwhile, CVS changes their in-store promotions every 12 minutes. The real reason? We're addicted to transparency theater, the illusion of choice where the fine print always wins. Cashiers have front row seats to this daily tragedy. They've seen grown adults burst into nervous laughter upon realizing their $10 lunch actually costs $11.30. They've witnessed the exact moment when a tourist's smile fades as they comprehend that no, the bodega isn't scamming them. This is just how it works here. Some develop a sixth sense for when to gently say, "It'll be a little more with tax," softening the blow like a financial grief counselor. The worst part. We've all developed coping mechanisms, rounding up every price in our heads, keeping loose change like squirrels preparing for winter. That tiny surge of victory when the total lands lower than expected. We've normalized what should be a consumer rights violation, all because challenging it would require admitting the system makes no sense. Meanwhile, digital shopping carts rub salt in the wound. Online retailers show you the pre-tax total first, your order $20, before slapping on fees during checkout like a surprise party nobody wanted. You click purchase with the enthusiasm of someone signing a hostage negotiation, watching your cart morph into something slightly more expensive than you budgeted for. And let's not forget the grand irony. We'll scrutinize a restaurant bill for hidden gratuity, but accept hidden taxes as inevitable. We'll boycott airlines over baggage fees, yet shrug when the government tax on extra charges at the register. It's the ultimate conditioned response. We've been trained to expect the bait and switch, to the point where an all-inclusive price tag feels suspicious, like maybe we're being overcharged somewhere. The rest of the world figured this out ages ago. Walk into a London shop and the price on the shelf is the price you pay. Tokyo convenience stores, the total matches the display. Even Canada, our hat-wearing neighbor to the north, includes sales tax in posted prices. But here, we cling to our convoluted system like it's some sacred free market principle, as if seeing the real cost upfront would somehow crush the entrepreneurial spirit. So next time you're hit with checkout sticker shock, take a deep breath. Remember, you're not bad at math. You're just participating in America's favorite unannounced arithmetic exam, where the only passing grade is carrying extra quarters like your dignity depends on it. Which, let's face it, it kinda does. There's a special kind of theater that unfolds at airport gates, a performance where the script says boarding by zones, but the audience collectively decides the rules don't apply to them. The moment the gate agent picks up the microphone, it's like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly, every passenger within earshot materializes in a tight scrum around the desk, even if their zone won't be called for another 30 minutes. Somehow, standing awkwardly in a crush of strangers with a roller bag digging into your shin has become the unofficial pre-flight ritual, as if proximity to the jet bridge somehow guarantees earlier access to overhead bin space. Watch the hierarchy in action. First come the priority travelers, frequent flyers clinging to their elite status like a life raft, shooting daggers at anyone who dares approach the line before their group is announced. Then there's the Zone 3 crowd who have perfected the art of hovering just close enough to the rope to justify their eventual surge forward, pretending not to hear the agent's increasingly exasperated announcements. And let's not forget the rogue Zone 5 passengers who accidentally merge into Zone 2, relying on the chaos to mask their audacity. It's a social experiment in rule breaking, where the only real enforcement is the collective judgment of 100 exhausted travelers too polite to call out the line cutters. The irony: the system is supposed to create order. Airlines spend millions designing boarding algorithms that optimize efficiency, back to front, window to aisle, whatever, only for humans to short-circuit the process the second they smell jet fuel. Studies show boarding by zones is faster when followed correctly, but try telling that to the guy in 17B who's convinced his middle seat will disappear if he doesn't barrel past the actual Zone 1 passengers. Meanwhile, flight attendants watch from the plane, bracing for the inevitable traffic jam in the aisle as 20 people attempt to simultaneously wrestle suitcases into bins clearly marked for bags half their size. What makes this uniquely American isn't just the disobedience, it's the performative indignation that follows. The moment someone dares to board out of turn, the gate area becomes a courtroom. Eyebrows raise, sighs amplify. Passive-aggressive comments about some people ripple through the crowd like a game of telephone played by jurors. Yet nobody actually intervenes because confronting a stranger over boarding etiquette feels more socially risky than quietly fuming while your blood pressure spikes. It's a culture where rules are treated as suggestions, but the second someone else bends them, we're all suddenly sticklers for fairness. And let's talk about the real villain here: overhead bin anxiety. This whole circus stems from the unspoken fear that there won't be space for your bag, thanks to airlines charging to check luggage while simultaneously shrinking cabin storage. So we've turned boarding into a high-stakes game of musical chairs, where losing means your carry-on gets gate-checked and you spend the flight praying your laptop survives the cargo hold. The irony: if everyone just boarded in their assigned zones, bins would fill evenly, and we'd all be spared the spectacle of grown adults playing Tetris with their suitcases at 30,000 feet. The grand finale, when Zone 4 is finally called and the last stragglers shuffle on, you'll inevitably spot someone who sprinted to the gate during pre-boarding, only to realize their seat is in row 29, and they've been awkwardly camping near first class for 40 minutes. Meanwhile, the family who actually followed the rules waltzes on late and finds plenty of space because karma and physics eventually balances the scales. Maybe that's the real lesson here. In the end, the only thing more futile than fighting the boarding mob is pretending you're above it. So grab your ticket, clutch your bag, and embrace the madness, because in America, even the most orderly systems can't survive contact with the determined chaos of the traveling public. You finally own your dream home, a proud moment, a sanctuary where you can paint the walls neon green if you want. That is, until you get your first letter from the HOA informing you that your trash cans are visible from the street for more than 12 consecutive hours, and therefore you owe a $75 fine. Welcome to the world of homeowners associations, where the bylaws are made up and the violations never stop, a bureaucratic Hunger Games where the prize is the right to park your own car in your own driveway without getting a citation. These organizations start with noble intentions, keeping neighborhoods tidy, maintaining property values, but somewhere along the way, they morph into miniature dictatorships run by people who treat the community rulebook like it's the Ten Commandments. Your grass grows a half-inch taller than regulation violation. Your holiday decorations stay up one day past the approved window violation. You dare to install a screen door without submitting it for architectural review 6 weeks in advance. Believe it or not, straight to violation jail. The level of scrutiny rivals an FBI background check, except instead of probing your criminal history, they're measuring the height of your mailbox with a ruler. The pettiness reaches legendary levels. One homeowner in Florida was fined for leaving a Christmas wreath on her door in February, while a family in Texas got a warning because their kid's pink bicycle clashed with the approved color palette of their house. Another couple in California had to petition the board for permission to plant native drought-resistant plants in their yard because the HOA's landscaping rules only allowed thirsty Kentucky bluegrass. The irony, half the committee members probably can't tell the difference between Bermuda and zoysia grass, but they'll cite you for a single rogue dandelion like it's a felony. Then there's the enforcement hierarchy where retired empty nesters with too much time on their hands patrol the streets like volunteer hall monitors, armed with clipboards and an unhealthy obsession with paragraph 37B of the CCRs. They'll snap photos of your offending trash cans like paparazzi stalking celebrities, then send ominously worded emails with subject lines like urgent compliance notice. Try arguing and you'll be met with the bureaucratic equivalent of "the computer says no." The hearings feel like court trials, complete with testimony about your lawn's unacceptable blade density and exhibits showing your fence stain is 2 shades too dark. The real kicker, you're paying for this. HOA fees can run hundreds of dollars a month just for the privilege of being micromanaged by someone whose entire personality is enforcing setback requirements. And good luck with holding payment. They can slap a lien on your house faster than you can say, "This is why I rent." It's a subscription service nobody wants but can't unsubscribe from, like Netflix if Netflix charged you $50 every time you left a dish in the sink overnight. Somehow, we've normalized this. In other countries, neighbors might exchange polite nods or the occasional casserole. Here, they'll report you to a governing body because your garage door was open past curfew. We'll tolerate this level of oversight in our neighborhoods, but then balk at the idea of government overreach. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. Imagine if the DMV sent inspectors to ticket you for parallel parking a foot too far from the curb, but you had to pay them directly for the privilege. At its core, HOA tyranny isn't about preserving property values, it's about control. It turns communities into passive-aggressive dystopias where conformity is king and individuality is a finnable offense. The saddest part, most of us just sigh, pay up and whisper, "I'll get you next time, Karen," while adjusting our trash cans to the exact millimeter of compliance. Because in America, even owning a home doesn't mean you're really free, just free to follow someone else's obsessive rules. There's a certain poetry to the oil stains that grace American driveways, those Rorschach blots of automotive history that tell the story of a car's slow surrender to gravity and time. What other nations might see as a sign of neglect, we've quietly rebranded as a badge of honor, the vehicular equivalent of battle scars. Each dark, ink-eye splatter is a monument to the thousands of miles logged, the cross-country road trips, the grocery runs, and the occasional, "I'll get that leak checked next week," that stretched into a decade. These aren't just stains, they're artifacts of a culture that treats cars like family members loved, but not always meticulously maintained. The first droplet hits the concrete like a declaration, "I live here now." Over time, it spreads into an abstract masterpiece with tendrils creeping toward the garage door like ivy on a cottage. Neighbors might tut-tut at the growing blotch, but deep down they know theirs is coming. It's only a matter of time before their pristine pavement joins the oil stain coalition. The beauty lies in the variations. Some are delicate smudges, the work of a dignified sedan with a slow but persistent weep. Others are Jackson Pollock-level explosions, courtesy of a '92 pickup that shed fluids like a tree sheds leaves. Then there's the classic rainbow puddle, where oil and water perform a shimmering dance, turning your driveway into a low-budget disco floor every time it drizzles. And let's not forget the seasonal evolution. Summer heat bakes the stains deeper, winter freezes them into permanent fossils, and spring rain briefly resurrects them like ghostly echoes of automotive sins past. Home improvement stores sell an arsenal of solvents and pressure washers promising to erase these marks, but let's be real, that's just a temporary fix. The oil always returns like a boomerang of neglect. Besides, scrubbing away your driveway's patina feels almost sacrilegious, like power washing the history out of a battlefield. These stains are the car's way of saying, "I was here," long after the vehicle itself has been donated, sold, or rusted into oblivion. The real irony. We'll pay extra for distressed jeans or weathered furniture, but panic at the sight of naturally distressed concrete. Maybe we should lean into it. Real estate listings could start bragging. Charming 3-bedroom with original hardwood floors and a certified vintage oil stain, great conversation starter. Artisanal coffee shops could commission abstract driveway stains as edgy outdoor decor. The possibilities are endless. At its core, the oil-stained driveway is a quiet rebellion against perfection. In a world of pressure-washed sidewalks and Instagram-perfect exteriors, it's a tangible reminder that life and cars are messy. So next time you spot that fresh drip forming, resist the urge to grab the degreaser. Instead, take a moment to appreciate the unscripted artistry beneath your feet. After all, in a country built on highways and horsepower, what's more American than leaving your mark, one slow, greasy drop at a time? Calling customer service in America isn't just a chore. It's an endurance test designed to break your spirit before you ever reach a human being. You dial the number, bracing yourself for the inevitable robotic voice chirping. Please listen carefully, as our menu options have changed. What follows is a labyrinth of button-pressing purgatory where every press one for billing feels like stepping deeper into a digital funhouse with no exit. First comes the main menu, a cheerful voice droning through options that never quite match your issue. Press 2 for account inquiries, but is your problem an inquiry or a dispute? The distinction could mean the difference between salvation and another 5 minutes of Muzak hell. Then there's the dreaded submenu where billing questions splits into payments, invoices, and payment methods, none of which address why you were double charged for a service you cancelled 3 months ago. The longer you listen, the more you suspect these options exist solely to funnel you into a dead end labeled "Visit our website." Just when you think you've cracked the code, aha, press 0. The system cheerfully informs you, "I'm sorry, that's not a valid option," before looping you back to the beginning like some twisted game show where the prize is basic human assistance. Meanwhile, the hold music, a tinny rendition of a mid-2000s pop hit, plays on a 10-second loop, slowly eroding your will to live. The real cruelty, the illusion of progress. Some systems tease you with, "Your call is very important to us," while the wait time increases from 3 minutes to 10 minutes as you're shuffled deeper into the queue. Others deploy the ultimate psychological warfare. "Did you know you can resolve this issue online?" As if you haven't already spent 45 minutes crawling through their FAQ like a detective solving a cold case. And then, the grand finale, the accidental disconnect. Whether it's a mispressed button, a system glitch, or the call center's equivalent of a magician's vanishing act, one moment you're finally hearing the words, "Let me connect you to an agent," and the next silence. The dial tone mocks you like a bully stealing your lunch money. Now you get to start the whole ordeal over, this time with the added fury of knowing exactly how pointless every step will be. What makes this uniquely American isn't the automation, it's the gaslighting. Companies tout 24/7 customer support like it's a feature, not a hostage negotiation. We've normalized this dysfunction so thoroughly that stumbling upon an actual human operator feels like winning the lottery. Meanwhile, in countries like Japan or Denmark, calling customer service often means speaking to a polite, efficient human within minutes. No button gymnastics required. The ultimate irony, these systems were supposed to save time. Instead, they've turned simple questions into hour-long odysseys where the only certainty is that you'll age slightly faster by the end. So next time you're trapped in phone menu hell, take comfort in knowing you're not alone. Millions of us are out here, fingers hovering over keypads, collectively wondering why press 0 for operator is the biggest lie since the check is in the mail. Picture this, you're following a recipe online, feeling like a culinary genius until you hit the ingredients list and suddenly need a PhD in unit conversion. Add 200 grams of flour, it says, and you're left staring at your measuring cups like they're ancient relics from a lost civilization. Why? Because America is one of the last holdouts clinging to teaspoons, tablespoons, and cups like they're sacred text, while the rest of the planet measures ingredients by weight like rational adults. This isn't just stubbornness, it's a full-blown measurement rebellion, where we'll defend a pinch and a dash as valid units while the metric system watches in bewildered silence. The metric system is elegant in its simplicity. Everything's base 10, weights correspond to volumes, and scaling recipes up or down is as easy as moving a decimal point. Meanwhile, our imperial system reads like a medieval grocery list. A cup is 8 ounces, except when it's 16 tablespoons, unless you're measuring butter, in which case it's 2 sticks, but only if the sticks are the standard size, not the European ones that somehow sneaked into your fridge. And God help you if the recipe calls for a pound of grated cheese, because now you're elbow deep in shredded cheddar, wondering if that's a pre-grated pound or a block you grated yourself pound, because apparently density is a suggestion. Baking in America is basically a high-stakes guessing game. One misread conversion thinking a fluid ounce is the same as a regular ounce, and your cookies come out resembling hockey pucks. Ever tried having a recipe that calls for 1/3 cup of milk? Suddenly you're doing fractions at 7 in the morning like a contestant on a math game show you never signed up for. Meanwhile, bakers in metric countries are over there casually weighing their ingredients to the exact gram, producing flawless croissants while we're still debating whether packed brown sugar means gently pressed or packed like we're constructing a sandcastle. The resistance isn't just in kitchens. We buy soda in liters but milk in gallons. We measure car efficiency in miles per gallon but engine displacement in liters. We track our weight in pounds at the doctor's office but dose medicine in milligrams. It's like we're collectively gaslighting ourselves into thinking this chaos makes sense. Even NASA uses metric, but ask the average American how tall they are, and they'll proudly declare 5'9", like feet and inches aren't just arbitrary lines on a medieval king's shoe. The irony, we almost switched. In 1975, Congress passed the Metric Conversion Act, a bold plan to embrace the system the rest of the planet had already adopted. But then nothing, no follow-through, no enforcement, just a half-hearted shrug. Today, highway signs display kilometers in tiny parentheses like a dirty secret, and soda bottles proudly flaunt their 2-liter size while Americans stubbornly refer to it as a big bottle of pop. We're like a toddler refusing to give up our favorite blanket except the blank. It is a jumble of archaic measurements, and the whole world is patiently waiting for us to grow up. The funniest part, when we do use metric, it's usually by accident. Ever heard someone say they ran a 5K? Congrats, you've witnessed a rare moment of metric surrender. Same with 2x4 lumber, those numbers are in inches, but the name sounds suspiciously like something a metric user would understand. It's as if we're dipping our toes into the metric pool while screaming, "I'm not committing." So here we are, a nation of people who will defend freedom units to the death while quietly keeping a conversion app bookmarked for baking emergencies. Maybe one day we'll join the rest of the world in measurement harmony. Until then, we'll just keep pretending that remembering how many fluid ounces are in a pint is a useful life skill, and not proof that we're all living in a collective math nightmare. There's a special kind of whiplash that hits the moment you step into a store 1 foot barely past the threshold when you're ambushed by an employee whose cheerfulness could power a small city. "Hi, welcome in. How's your day going so far?" They chirp, their voice hitting a register usually reserved for announcing lottery winners. You mutter something vaguely polite while internally calculating the exact distance to the nearest aisle where you can hide among the cereal boxes. This isn't just customer service, it's emotional dodgeball where the ball is relentless enthusiasm and the stakes are your right to browse in peace. The scripted cheer is a uniquely American retail quirk. Employees aren't just encouraged to greet you, they're often required to perform this ritual with the precision of a Broadway understudy hitting their mark. The result, a chorus of "Find everything okay" and "Just let me know if you need anything," that follows you through the store like a polite yet persistent shadow. It's well-intentioned, sure, but after the fifth associate in 10 minutes asks about your day with the same rehearsed inflection, you start wondering if you've accidentally joined a flash mob. Here's the uncomfortable truth: nobody wins in this exchange. The employee, forced to recite the same lines hundreds of times per shift, is stuck in a loop of performative joy that would drain the most extroverted among us. The customer, caught off guard while comparing laundry detergent prices, now shoulders the burden of manufacturing yet another "I'm good, thanks" to toss into the void. And the store, well, they've convinced themselves this is good service, despite mounting evidence that most shoppers would trade all the greetings in the world for one single, uninterrupted minute to remember whether they needed paper towels or parchment paper. The psychology behind this is oddly fascinating. Studies show that overly aggressive greetings can actually increase stress for customers, especially introverts or anyone who just wants to grab their groceries and vanish. Yet corporate policies double down on the practice, treating every shopper like a contestant on a game show where the first prize is being acknowledged by no fewer than 7 employees before checkout. Even funnier, the more upscale the store, the more intense the greeting arms race becomes. Walk into a boutique and you're not just welcomed, you're celebrated, as if your decision to browse overpriced candles is akin to returning from war. The real victims here are the employees, though. Imagine having to manufacture genuine-sounding interest in hundreds of strangers' days while also restocking shelves, running registers, and pretending not to notice when someone drops a jar of pickles in aisle 3. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. Act like you love being here even though you're paid $12 an hour and that guy just yelled at you over a coupon. No wonder the "how's your day" often sounds more like a cry for help than a question. Meanwhile, retail workers in other countries have mastered the art of the subtle nod, acknowledging your presence without treating it like a ticker tape parade. In Japan, employees might offer a quiet, "Erashimasu" welcome without expecting a response. In Germany, you're more likely to be left alone unless you actively seek help. But here, we've turned shopping into an interactive theater where every trip requires you to either perform extroversion or endure the crushing guilt of ignoring someone whose job depends on pretending they care about your lunch plans. The irony is delicious. In our quest to make stores feel friendly, we've created environments where both workers and customers are locked in a choreography of fake smiles and scripted exchanges. The next time you're hit with a "Hey, welcome to Mega Mart," as you sprint toward the self-checkout, take solace in this. Somewhere, an employee is equally relieved when you don't stop to answer. Because in the grand play of American retail, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is keep walking, letting both of you off the hook for another round of compulsory cheer. You're practically sprinting down the sidewalk, keys jangling in one hand and a desperate fistful of quarters in the other, because the parking gods have granted you exactly 3 minutes before your meter expires. This isn't just urban life, it's the parking meter Hunger Games where the odds are never in your favor, and the only prize is not getting a $75 slip of paper mocking you from beneath your windshield wiper. The ritual begins with the optimistic drop of coins clink, clink, clink each quarter, buying you another precious 15 minutes of freedom. You do the mental math like a Wall Street trader. If I feed it 8 quarters, that's 2 hours, minus the 5 minutes it'll take to grab coffee, plus the inevitable line at the pharmacy. But here's where the system betrays you. That meter doesn't care about your errands. It's a ticking time bomb disguised as municipal infrastructure, counting down with robotic indifference whether you're grabbing a prescription or delivering a baby. The real psychological torture starts when you're forced to gamble. Do you overpay and essentially donate to the city's coffers, or cut it close and risk that predatory parking enforcement officer who somehow materializes the millisecond your time lapses? They move with the precision of assassins, ticket books at the ready, just waiting for that digital display to flip to the red expired that might as well say gotcha. And let's not pretend technology has made this better. Those fancy parking apps, they'll send you a 5-minute warning notification right as your phone dies, or just as you're being handed a scalding latte that demands both hands. Then comes the ultimate betrayal, returning to your car with 30 seconds to spare, only to find a ticket already slapped on your windshield. The officer will claim they just wrote it, but you know the truth. They lurked in the shadows like a parking meter vampire, poised to strike the nanosecond the clock zeroed out. The worst part, contesting it requires more time and paperwork than the fine's worth, so you just sigh and pay up, vowing next time to park illegally behind a dumpster like some sort of vehicular raccoon. What makes this uniquely American isn't the meters themselves, it's the naked capitalism of it all. Cities design these systems to fail in their favor, calibrating expiration times just slightly shorter than average errands require. The same block will have a 2-hour limit outside the bakery where you need 15 minutes and a 30-minute limit outside the DMV where you'll die of old age before your number's called. It's a tax on the distracted, the over-optimistic, and anyone who dares to think they can quickly run in. Meanwhile, other countries handle this with grace. Some European cities give you a 5-minute grace period after expiration. Others let you top up remotely via text, but here, we've turned street parking into a high-stakes game show where the host is a rusted metal pole with a digital readout, and the buzzer sounds like the tear of a ticket being printed. The only winning move is carrying a roll of quarters at all times, or better yet, taking the bus and letting someone else suffer the meter's cruel whims. There's a special kind of road rage that bubbles up when you're sitting at an intersection, blinker dutifully clicking, only to realize the cruel truth. This stretch of asphalt has declared war on left turns. The sign mocks you in bold, all caps Helvetica, no left turn. Suddenly, your simple trip to the grocery store becomes an odyssey of right turns, U-turns, and quiet existential questioning about who exactly decided this was a good idea. These intersections aren't just inconvenient, they're masterclasses in urban sadism. Traffic engineers call it improving flow, but what it really means is forcing drivers into a real-life game of Frogger where the winning move is driving 3 miles past your destination just to loop back around. Take the classic Michigan left, a maneuver so counterintuitive it feels like a prank. Instead of turning left, you're forced to turn right, merge across multiple lanes, and then only after a scenic detour make a U-turn that spits you back toward your original goal. It's like being handed a Rubik's Cube when all you wanted was to grab a carton of milk. The psychological toll is real. Every minute spent driving away from where you actually need to go feels like a personal betrayal by city planners. You'll pass the same gas station twice, wave awkwardly at the pedestrian you just saw 5 minutes ago, and question whether the universe is gaslighting you. Meanwhile, the traffic light you could have turned left at gleams green in your rearview mirror, taunting you with what might have been, and let's talk about the signage or lack thereof. Nothing prepares you for the moment you realize too late that the left turn you've been counting on is forbidden. Maybe there's a tiny, sun-faded sign hidden behind a tree branch. Maybe the restriction only applies during rush hour, a fact you discover as horns blare behind you and a cop materializes out of nowhere. Either way, you're now committed to the world's worst scavenger hunt, where the prize is getting back to where you started. The real kicker, these traps are everywhere. In some cities, entire business districts become forbidden zones for left turns during peak hours, turning a quick errand into a vehicular mission impossible. And don't even get started on construction zones where no left turn signs pop up overnight like weeds, rerouting your commute into a maze of orange cones and despair. The worst part, we've internalized this chaos. We'll grumble but we'll obey, looping through side streets and parking lots like rats in a city planner's experiment. Meanwhile, passengers oblivious to the injustice cheerfully ask, "Couldn't you just turn left back there?" As if you chose this absurd detour. Somehow, this is just how it is. Other countries manage left turns without requiring drivers to perform elaborate three-act plays just to cross the street. But here, we've turned basic navigation into a test of patience, endurance, and creative problem-solving. So next time you're forced into the world's most unnecessary U-turn, take comfort in knowing you're not bad at driving. You're just playing a rigged game where the only winning move is buying a helicopter. There comes a time every August when summer is still in full swing, beaches are packed, sunscreen sells by the gallon, and ice cream trucks blast their jingles well past dusk when suddenly, without warning, the first pumpkin spice product of the season hits the shelves. At first, it's subtle, a latte here, a scented candle there, but by Labor Day, full-blown infiltration. Dog treats, pumpkin spiced, protein powder, pumpkin spiced. Motor oil, okay, maybe not motor oil yet, but give it time. This isn't just a flavor trend, it's a cultural takeover, an autumnal coup executed by corporations who have discovered that slapping pumpkin spice on anything from Oreos to Spam guarantees a Pavlovian response from a certain segment of the population. The psychology behind it is fascinating. The mere whiff of cinnamon and nutmeg triggers nostalgic synapses, transporting people to idealized fall memories that may or may not have actually happened. Crisp leaves crunching underfoot, oversized sweaters, and bonfires where no one's fingers got too cold. Never mind that the actual pumpkin, the squash, the star of the show, is often MIA from the ingredient list. The idea of pumpkin is all that matters. The speed of the invasion is almost impressive. One day, your local coffee shop is pushing iced matcha. The next, the entire menu has been PSL'd, that's pumpkin spice latte for the uninitiated. And it's not just drinks, soon your grocery store morphs into a pumpkin spice theme park. Cereal, pumpkin spice, peanut butter, pumpkin spice, even the hummus isn't safe. At a certain point, you half expect to find pumpkin spice dental floss or pumpkin spice windshield wiper fluid. The marketing is relentless, banking on FOMO to convince you that if you don't stock up now, you'll miss out on the limited time only magic, even though the same items will reappear like clockwork next August. The backlash is inevitable, of course. Every year, a vocal faction declares pumpkin spice basic, as if enjoying seasonal flavors were a moral failing. Memes mock the basic white girl with her UGG boots and PSL, as though men aren't out there buying pumpkin spice beef jerky by the case. But here's the thing, the haters are just as predictable as the hype. The cycle repeats like the seasons themselves. Outrage fuels engagement, which fuels more pumpkin spice product development, and the wheel keeps turning. What makes this uniquely American isn't the flavor. Plenty of cultures love cinnamon and spice, but the sheer scale of the commodification. No other country turns a humble gourd into a multi-billion-dollar industrial complex. In Germany, they have pumpkin festivals where people carve actual pumpkins. Here, we distill the essence of fall into a syrup that gets pumped into everything from vodka to lip balm, then act shocked when someone invents pumpkin spice-scented toilet paper. The real kicker, by the time October rolls around, the pumpkin spice faithful are over it. The same people who camped out for the first PSL of the season are now eyeing the peppermint mocha rollout with relief, ready to move on to the next seasonal dopamine hit. The pumpkin spice machine doesn't care. It's already retooling for next year, plotting new frontiers of infiltration. Pumpkin spice car air fresheners. Done. Pumpkin spice gym socks probably in development. So whether you're a die-hard PSL devotee or a skeptic rolling your eyes at the mere mention of nutmeg, one thing's for sure: resistance is futile. The pumpkin spice industrial complex is coming, and it doesn't care if you're still wearing flip-flops. All you can do is brace yourself and maybe stock up on actual pumpkins before they get rebranded as artisanal fall decor and marked up to $40 a piece. And so here we are, 30 gloriously bizarre, utterly nonsensical, yet somehow endearing American problems later. These are the little absurdities we've collectively decided are just normal, the stuff that would make outsiders scratch their heads while we shrug and say, yeah, that's how it is. Because let's face it, nowhere else on Earth could you find a society that's simultaneously outraged by daylight saving time yet totally fine with gas station pizza being unironically delicious. This isn't just a list of quirks, it's a love letter to the beautiful chaos of living in the US of A. Where else can you experience the adrenaline rush of a parking meter countdown, the existential dread of a pharmacy checkout interrogation, and the sheer audacity of a small drink that could hydrate a camel all before lunch? These aren't flaws, they're features. They're the invisible threads stitching together the patchwork insanity we call home. Think about it. Our over-the-top holiday decorations, our militant HOA battles, our refusal to embrace the metric system despite it being objectively easier, these aren't accidents. They're declarations of independence from the boring, the predictable, the sensible. Sure, other countries might have their acts together, but do they have drive-thru weddings? Do they celebrate Halloween in August? Do they turn minor errands into full-blown quests just for the drama of it? Didn't think so. Here's the real magic, though. You probably read these and thought, oh my God, yes, at least once. Maybe it was the eternal war with your HOA over trash can placement. Maybe it was the time you panic-tipped 25% on a self-serve yogurt. Or maybe it was that one beautiful, ridiculous moment when you realized your GPS had led you into a literal cornfield and you just went with it. That's the joy of these shared absurdities that are inside jokes as a culture. So now it's your turn. What's the most normal American problem that wasn't on this list? The little daily madness that makes you roll your eyes but secretly adore. Drop it in the comments. Let's see how beautifully bizarre this country really is. And if you enjoyed this tour through the wonderfully weird underbelly of American life, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, we've got plenty more where this came from, because in a country that invents new forms of chaos by the hour, the only real normal is, well, abnormal. And honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way.